Hi everybody, it's Sean. Today's vlog is called How to Get Rid of Love Handles, or at least how did I get rid of love handles on the carnivore diet. In 2019, I did 2 ribeyes a day for a year, if not longer. I don't remember exactly how long I did it for. Somewhere up into the pandemic, so maybe a year and 3 months. And I had great results. I told everybody about carnivore. I didn't do a video or anything, but I was telling anybody who's anybody, this is the diet. You're going to feel great. You're going to have tremendous energy. I believe I was 215, 216 pounds when I started. And at the end of it, I think I got down to 185 to 183 pounds. People always mention how much I talk about weight. It seems to matter, and I'll get back to that in a second. But the fact of the matter is I got down to 183 pounds, but I couldn't move from there. I couldn't move the scale below 183 pounds, and I still actually had love handles at 183 pounds. I didn't understand. They were telling me, eat as much meat as you want, blah, 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 eat this, different types of meats. At least that's what I was hearing anyway, but it wasn't getting the results I wanted. And so I had to learn. It took me a while to learn this process. And there are many ways to lose weight. There are many ways to lose love handles. There's extra amount of exercise, there's fasting, there's vegetarian, there's vegan. There's so many different ways to lose weight. I didn't find, and I did try all those things, by the way. I haven't talked about that at all, but I was essentially vegetarian for 11 years. That's a whole nother story that I really actually don't want to get into. I didn't do that bad on it. I was a very thin dude, but I wasn't muscular at all. But I didn't lift weights either, so who knows. With that said, carnivore is what is best for me. But I had to figure out, okay, how do I do this, lose weight, keep the weight off, keep the love handles off, yet still eat enough to exercise and have a bunch of activity. And so what I figured out over a long period of time is that if I start with 3,000 calories, let's say I want to lose 10 pounds, I always do the same thing. And usually, even on carnivore, I'm going to gain 10 pounds in the wintertime. So I start with 3,000 calories and I eliminate calories each week until I get to 2,000. I generally will stop at 2,000. I did it last year and I had a vlog on it and everything. Teddy's at the door. Hi, Teddy. He's not coming in. Anyway, so 3,000 is what I start with, and I generally do ground beef. Why do I do ground beef? Because ground beef is actually easier to measure. Ribeyes are not easy to measure. As a matter of fact, if you buy a bone-in ribeye that's 1 pound, that still has the bone on it. So by the time you cook it, and if you choose to put it back on a scale, a 1 pound, I actually did it this afternoon. I was going to try to video a ribeye, a T-bone, and ground beef, 85-15 ground beef, and compare the weight of the package versus what you're actually eating. It didn't work out. I suck at this video thing, so here I am telling you the story about what happened. I had a 1.10 pound, so a 17-ounce ribeye, bone in, that's very important to know. Cooked it, cut the bone off, put it on the scale. It was 10.5 ounces. So a 1.1 17-ounce ribeye ends up being 10.8 ounces is what I said. That's not enough food. So let's say you eat 2 ribeyes a day like I did. It's when you get to a low weight and you want to get lower, where do you go if you're only at 2,000 calories? There's nowhere to go. You go to 18, 17, 16. Let's say you do that and you end up losing the love handles. Then where do you go from there? There's nowhere to go. So it's very important if you are carnivore and you've been carnivore for a year, and that's what my videos are for. It's for people that don't want to yo-yo anymore. And there's a lot of people that still yo-yo on carnivore. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread from January until April, and then everything falls apart, and then they start all over again. How do I know this? Because I've had this vlog for a year, and the same people are contacting me about what to do. They contacted me a year ago about what to do. And I'll get to that in a second. But going back to the ribeyes, ribeyes are awesome. We all love them. But it would take 2 ribeyes a meal, so 4 ribeyes a day, to get the amount of calories that I get out of the ground beef. And much cheaper, of course. I think those bone-in ribeyes were $14. I bought 2 of them. They were $14 a piece for 1 pound ribeyes, which only gets you 10.5 ounces of beef, mind you. Whereas the ground beef is going to cost you $6, and you're generally going to get exactly what the package says after it's cooked. So if it says 1.3, which is 19 ounces, generally weighs 19 ounces when you're done. So why do I mention that? Because when you're trying to get to 10% body fat or lower, Why is that so important? Because it feels better than 15 and 20. Trust me, I do it all the time. 10% body fat feels really good. Yes, it looks good. That's part of it, of course, but it feels good. And that's kind of what we're doing. We're here to feel good. As far as health and all that other stuff, I've told you before, I don't think of that stuff. My parents are in their 80s, you know, and no offense, Mom, but their diets haven't been the greatest, but they're still 80 and they're doing fine. What does that mean? It means I'm probably going to get there whether I eat McDonald's or eat carnivore. I just want to get there at my best, and that's what carnivore does for me. It's my best, and I've tried all of the diets, every one of them, and carnivore is what's best for me. And by the way, today's video is actually going to be called The Reluctant Carnivore, because that's kind of what I am. I actually don't want to be carnivore. Unfortunately, to get my best, I need to be carnivore, and I've certainly been through enough in the past year of fooling around with my diet to understand that carnivore is what's best for me. So I hope I'm not going around and around. I don't have any notes. I'm winging it because the first video of comparing the steaks, it just didn't work. So here I am telling you how to get rid of love handles. How do you do it? Start at 3,000 is what I do. I'm 6'1". And by the way, guys, in case you're wondering, I am 180 pounds this morning. So the 13 pounds I said I lost after I switched from animal-based back to strict carnivore, it turns out being 9 pounds. And this is probably my winter weight. I haven't been cold all winter. Last winter, I was 170 pounds and I was freezing the entire winter. So my body's probably supposed to be 180 pounds in the wintertime, and I would guess 172 in the summertime. I start at 3,000 and I generally do it for 2 months, and I get down to 2,000, and then I level back up for the summertime. That's what I did last year. It worked perfectly. So my weight went from 180 pounds at the end of March to 170 pounds at the end of June. And that is when I switched to animal-based last year, because my body fat was just too low. I couldn't sustain the activity level that I had because my body fat was too low. That's not good either. 10% is a pretty good number, which is right around, for me, 172 pounds, and it feels really, really good. As far as the love handles are concerned, if you're doing, a lot of people have that number of 2,000 calories. I'm going to eat 2,000 calories. Guys at the gym tell me it all the time. I don't even question them anymore, but they tell me 2,000 calories. The only question, actually, I shouldn't say that. What I'll say is, what's your plan after you get to the weight that you want to get to? What's the plan? Because you can't go anywhere from 2,000 calories. You can't go down any lower. Most people can't. My body naturally burns 2,000. If I stay in bed all day, it's going to burn 2,000. So they don't have an answer for it. And that's why so many people yo-yo, because they do these extreme diets, and then they end up getting to the weight they want to get or close, and then they go right back to what they were eating before, and then again, back to January 1st, one more time. So how do you stay in carnivore? How do you stay in the game? This is how I do it, and a lot of people don't agree with it, but this is how I do it. There's many other ways to do it. This is my way, and my way is very, very simple. I don't do cold baths or cold showers or walk barefoot. I don't. I'm sorry, that's not what I do. What I do is I know exactly the amount of food that I'm eating each day, and I actually know the exact amount of activity that I'm doing per day. I keep it the same. It's manageable in my life, and that way I know exactly how much I'm eating, which is a lot of, 3,000 calories is a lot of food. It's a ton of beef. It's essentially 20 ounces of beef per meal, and then a bunch of butter in my coffee in the morning. That's what I do. And like I said, if I want to get rid of the love handles, let's say I'm 185 pounds and the love handles are starting to show. I'm not really right now, I'm 180, but it doesn't take much for those things to show. It doesn't take much for all of this that I've worked on to fall apart. It's very, very quick, actually. I'm pretty good at catching it, which is what I did in my last video. So all you do is you eliminate the amount of food that you eat each week. And eventually you'll get to a body fat percent that is 10 or 9 or 8. And the love handles are gone. And then you have to figure out, okay, how much more do I add to keep them off, feel really good, and that's sustainable. That's how I do it. Super simple. As far as my weights are concerned, hour weights a day, 6 days a week, 30 minutes of cardio. Sometimes I do 45 minutes of cardio. And Teddy and I walk a lot too. So that's all I have for you. Love handles. They're really, really tricky if you've ever had them. They're hard to get rid of, but you have to, most people on carnivore, I'll end with this. Most people on carnivore are not eating enough food. 2 ribeyes a day is not enough food. You have to know exactly what your body needs. How much is the output? How much are you putting in? You have to put in enough fuel in order to, your body adjusts to what you're putting in. So eventually that 2,000 calories, the body's going to start storing fat because it's like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? I'm working too hard. I'm not getting enough fuel. I have to store. So you have to trick your body, and that's why you eliminate food and then add food. You're tricking your body and hopefully losing body fat and building muscle at the same time. I hope this makes sense. I did wing it, but let me know. Thanks.